SeaWorld Orlando is the second SeaWorld park that I visited in Florida, with the first being Busch Gardens Tampa, and I already have a mini review / coaster account for that amazing park. You can watch that by clicking on the card showing up here at the top right. But for now, let's talk about SeaWorld Orlando, the park that far surpassed my expectations. My name is Avery, and this is United Coasters. When I took my trip to Florida last year, I mostly did it to go to Busch Gardens Tampa for all of their jaw-dropping coasters, putting SeaWorld Orlando as a minor footnote for the trip. So when I arrived to this park, I was in shock about how different it was compared to my home park, SeaWorld San Antonio. SeaWorld Orlando pays a greater attention to detail in my opinion, and has a layout far superior than that of her sister park. Alright, let's do the fastest brief history lesson before we talk about the coasters here. SeaWorld Orlando opened in December 1973 as the second SeaWorld park in the chain. This park's primary focus was shows and events, with roller coasters not being introduced until 25 years later. Currently, SeaWorld Orlando boasts 7 roller coasters, including B&M's new for 2023 Pipeline the Surf Coaster, set to open soon. I obviously don't have the credit for that, nor do I have Icebreaker or Super Grover's Boxcar Derby, although I do plan on returning for the former two. Not Grover though. So I'll start this off with one of the best themed coasters in the park, Journey to Atlantis. Opened in 1998, this mock ride's water coaster far surpasses the Journey to Atlantis ride at SeaWorld San Antonio. I'm not too sure about the one at SeaWorld San Diego, but in Orlando, the attention to theming blew me away. You start by entering a building that is made to look like a subterranean treasure room, filled with props, effects, and music. Later, you rise up to take a 60-foot drop into a splashdown. For most flume rides, that would be the end of it. But Journey to Atlantis has another lift hill that goes into yet another scenery piece, and ends with a twisting drop into a splashdown. When I rode this, I didn't get splashed at all on that first drop that most people can see, but on that second drop, I was completely soaked. So after getting off of this, I can tell you that Journey to Atlantis is a great water coaster for this park, perfect for the whole family of thrill seekers, and it will keep you cool during the hot summer days in Florida. Next up, we have the B&M Flyer Manta. After you approach the first fork of the park, you get a close-up view of this amazing roller coaster as it takes riders headfirst down to the right over water with jets shooting out. Manta stands 140 feet with a 113-foot drop. After the seats put you in a flying position and lift you up the hill, you bank right to enter one of my most favorite elements of all time, a pretzel loop, and this one's taken at 98 feet tall. This element gives out the coolest feeling of positive G's on your entire body as you essentially lay down on the track during the loop. You then rise and turn left to go into an inline twist. This element doesn't give off that many forces, but it does feel graceful when you undergo it. You immediately swoop to the right and enter into a proper corkscrew before hitting the mid-course brake run. Next, you dive into that aforementioned photogenic spot right above the water, rising up and to the right near a stunning waterfall. Finally, you undergo another inline twist, the fourth and final inversion before hitting the brake run. The reason why Manta is one of my all-time favorite roller coasters is because you can see how the track layout separates the experience via the mid-course brake run, with intensity at the beginning of the ride and gracefulness after the slowdown. I appreciate the second part because it truly encompasses that flying aspect in a B&M Flyer. On top of that, I love the electric blue color that Manta sports and the queue line itself. But I'll talk about queue lines later in this video. Also, if you're enjoying this video so far, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps. Moving on, let's talk about the sleeper hit for me in this park, Kraken. When I went to SeaWorld Orlando, I would be lying if I told you that I was excited about Kraken. But after experiencing this ride firsthand, I was shocked by how great it was. If I had to sum up this ride to one word, it would be speed. And I know I might be in the minority when I say this, but I don't consider speed a factor when it comes to B&M floorless coasters. For example, Superman Krypton coaster at my home park of Fiesta, Texas is the same model of coaster but goes 5 miles faster. And despite being slower, Kraken takes its elements way faster in my opinion. After rising up the lift hill, you turn right and plunge 144 feet into a vertical loop that pulls off some of the greatest forces on your body. After that, you nearly have time to catch your breath as you rise up and fall into a dive loop. That bottoms out only to lift into a 0G roll that falls a little deeper than floor level before transitioning into a quick and forceful Cobra roll. It's only after all of this you get your first moment to breathe as you enter that mid-course brake run. You then dive into yet another vertical loop that starts and finishes in trenches. After that, you get a little bit of airtime as the ride rises into a hill. But that sense of brevity isn't long lasting as you bank hard left into a tunnel, exiting into the final corkscrew that sends riders into the brakes. Kraken has by far the best pacing at this park and is currently placed high on my coasters in terms of pure intensity. This 7 inversion roller coaster is surprisingly smooth too, with only minor rough parts on the transitions. Given the fact that this coaster is coming up on its 23rd year of operation, SeaWorld Orlando has really put some TLC into Kraken, and it shows, from its relative smoothness to its new striking green color of the track, putting that sea monster vibe into the name that Kraken implies. After getting off Kraken, I can say with certainty that this is a ride that every coaster enthusiast needs to go on one day. Lastly, let's talk about my first and only B&M hyper that I've been on, Mako. Standing 200 feet tall near the back of the park is one of the most powerful coasters that I've been on. I know that 200 feet doesn't seem that tall when you hear the number, but once you're standing next to Mako, it almost looks unreal. Now I'm thinking how crazy it would be to ride a B&M Giga. Anyway, Mako has an out and back layout with 8 moments of airtime. That's with most of them being straight up ejector airtime too. After pulling out of the station, you rise 200 feet to fall all the way down. The speed of this ride and the changes in G-force after the first drop alone is unreal as you rise up into an overbank turn. That turn gives you so much force in the back as you get launched down with so much whip. You then travel on yet another airtime hill with some awesome speed, only to then bank into a hammerhead turn. Now this turn didn't do that much for me in terms of excitement, but it does keep the speed of Mako consistent, so that's a huge plus. Going into the next airtime hill, the coaster hits a trim brake, slowing the train down ever so slightly, but that didn't affect me because I was in the back of the ride, so going on this was actually the contrary. I got the strongest moment of airtime as I absolutely got launched on this part. I was out of my seat the entire drop on this moment and I absolutely loved it. After a hill that turns to the right and a quick speed hill, you hit the mid-course brake run, where it kills off a lot of Mako speed. I don't know if the brakes were supposed to slow the train down as much as it did, but I kinda slowly meandered through the rest of the turns and dips into the final set of brakes. I didn't mind it though, because the last part of this coaster takes you over some pathways and gives you a great look at the central lake of the park. Mako is a strong contender to be one of, if not the best roller coasters that I've been on. It also has one of the most gorgeous paint schemes with that purple track, and stands out in the skyline as the fastest and tallest roller coaster in Orlando. Stepping away from the roller coasters a bit, I had to talk about the attention to theming on some of these rides. Of course, the theme to Journey to Atlantis is phenomenal, but for Manta, having a stingray exhibit inside the queue line for the ride themed to stingrays is just brilliant. When I came to this park, I came in blind, not knowing anything about this park except for the coasters alone. So going into that queue line was just amazing to me. Not only is it an indoor queue, but it's filled with facts and plenty of places to view stingrays in the aquariums. Some rides like Kraken go light on theming, but others like Mako have lights on the station ceiling, which I know just looks amazing at night. Speaking in a more general term for SeaWorld Orlando, they're constantly expanding, already having Icebreaker, which was standing but not operating when I was there, and the new for 2023 Pipeline the Surf Coaster. And despite this park's coaster lineup being heavily dominated by B&M models, not only did they pick the biggest hitters from their manufacturer's catalog, but they also are investing in taking chances with their new B&M stand-up model. Overall, I think this park can get overshadowed by families wanting to go to Universal, but thrill seekers need to add my favorite SeaWorld to their travel plans this year. And yeah, I said this is my favorite SeaWorld, with San Antonio being one of my home parks. If you experience these incredible coasters at this park, or just want to talk about roller coasters in general, don't be shy to leave a comment below. And if you've gotten this far in the video, then I hope you enjoyed what you've heard and consider subscribing. It honestly helps me way more than you think. I'm still on the hunt for 1,000 subscribers, so come be a part of this community. Lastly, I just want to say thank you for watching, and remember to stay united.